I think the best way to survive on inflation and to, really get through inflation is you have to get in the habit of budgeting your money correctly. Meaning you cannot spend above your means. And, too many people are trying to live above their means. They're trying to afford things that they cannot afford. Or buy things that they cannot afford and purchase things that they simply do not have the funds to even purchase, right? Because they have other bills that they got to cover for the week, and their paycheck may not be able to afford something that they want to buy, and they might have to hold off on buying certain things, And when it comes to living above your means, another way to kind of put it is, overdrafting your budget. And you see, a lot of people are going to blame inflation for why things are the way they are, why they can't save money, why things are so expensive for them, and they just can't really put together a sustainable income. Here's the thing. It's not just inflation, it's also your spending habits. If you are spending your money within the parameters of your bills, utility payments, a grocery bill. Now, if you got kids, it's going to be a little bit more complex, right? You're just going to have more of a difficult time depending on what you're making from your job if you have kids. Because when you have kids, it's a whole different responsibility. It's, you're spending more than you would on yourself, right? Because the little guys, little girls, they got to eat too. They need to have a living too, just like you, right? They got to be provided for and all that stuff, So for parents, when it comes to the finances, it's going to be a different situation. But if you're single, you're living on your own, or you may be living with a couple of roommates or something, and you just make enough to live off an average living, right? Sustain an average living, then you don't want to spend above your means. And you want to strategically plan out your budget. Only spend this much on food. When it comes to spending your money on food, it's really about you knowing how much you eat and what you normally eat, right? Like if you got roommates, they'll probably buy their own food, most likely. They'll eat their own stuff. But you have your own set of groceries that you normally buy, and it usually comes to this price, you know what I'm saying? I spend about an average between $50 to $100 on food. When it comes to my grocery list, my grocery bill, about $50 to $100. And I try not to go over that range. I try to stay within that range. I do not want to get in the habit of, door dashing food, ordering out, because, that all adds up. The more you get takeout, order out and shit, that tends to add up. So right now, I'm doing my very best to just shop for food, and that's it. And just buy the groceries that I need to buy, that I would, buy the things that I would normally eat, you know, and be smart when it comes to shopping. Look for, you know, sale items and stuff like that. Hell, if you got some coupons, you know, you can use that, you know, like digital coupons and shit. That may work out for you. Yeah, and just really just preserving, you know, your income, and just paying the bills that need to be paid to make sure you're not late, you know. And I talked about in my last video, when it comes to debt, listen, debt is the worst thing that anybody can be in. Like, I feel like that's everybody's worst nightmare right now, is being stuck in debt and not having enough money, or not making enough to pay off the debts, right? You know, I'm doing my best to avoid that as much as possible, because I knew I was in debt last year, a lot of credit card debt, by making stupid choices and whatnot, financial choices. And, you know, I wound up having to pay a lot of debt back, you know, last year. But like this year, 2023, I would say this has been my best year financially, because I've been, for the most part, I've been disciplined, and I've been budgeting my money right, and just being more responsible, you know, with my income, with what I earn, and just being on time, paying my bills, and paying the rent, car note, all that, etc. And, you know, I just don't need a lot of stuff. Like, the way my life is, you know, the way my life is sorted out now is I don't require a lot of materialism. You know, I'm not going to go to the store and buy a whole bunch of watches and, you know, buy a pair of Jordans. You know, I never actually brought a pair of Jordans in a day in my life. I don't own no Jordans. You know, I never wore those shoes ever in my life, you know. But that's just, I just don't need it, you know. Like, everybody else, they may want to wear Jordans because they want to impress other people. I'm not like that. I would say I used to be like that, you know, when I was younger. I cared about buying different clothes and trying to look fancy, trying to look cool, trying to look, you know, like I was somebody and shit. But no, I just keep things simple when it comes to clothing. You know, get a fresh white tee, a white tank top, you know, shorts, workout shorts, you know, sweatpants, a hoodie, you know, and just keep it pushing. You know, I get regular shoes, you know, Fila's and maybe some Nikes, and, you know, just simple shoes that, you know, like the less popular brands that I get of shoes. I don't stress about shoes. I don't start tripping about, oh, I gotta get these Jordans. I gotta spend $200 on these shoes. I just have to get them. No. The same thing goes with, you know, designer clothing, and, you know, I just don't need it. You know, maybe when I start making more for myself, maybe then I'll treat myself to nicer things, you know, because it's like you can do that if you earned it and you worked hard for your income. You know, if you have the money to treat yourself, then do it. You know, no one's stopping you. You know, if you want to upgrade your phone, your iPhone 11 to an iPhone 12 or something, then go ahead and do it. You know? But all I'm saying is, like, you can't be blaming your financial situation on inflation if you just have poor spending habits and you just don't know how to budget your money correctly, you know? And if there's a history of you just recklessly spending money on stuff that you really don't need, going on these shopping sprees and just making poor financial choices and whatnot. That's kind of on you. You can't blame it on inflation at that point, because you can manage your money correctly if you just if you know how to budget, if you know what to spend your money on, and if you just downsize on certain things, downsize in the car, what I'm saying, if you wind up getting the cheapest car insurance or whatnot, right, and you don't go crazy spending your credit line, you probably, I would say, spend, utilize less than 10% of your credit line, right? And don't go over 10% of spending your credit line, because that actually helps your credit score if you probably use about 10% of your credit or less. It kind of helps your credit report, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, I mean, what's happening right now for our economy and the cost of living being so high, especially here in New Jersey, the house prices here are just ridiculously high, man. Just insanely high. It's ridiculous, man. Studio apartments are going to wind up going up to $2,500 in the next few years. I mean, some are already at $2,000 a month. And, a studio apartment, that's one bedroom, one bath. That's a small ass, piece of living. That's studio apartment is so small, man. It's like a master bedroom. You know what I'm saying? Like a master room. And that's all there is, and that's $2,000 a month. Just imagine what a luxurious apartment, imagine how much that costs a month. That's insanely high. But if you have roommates that you actually like, you might be able to make an average living work, with your income, their income and whatnot, and y'all just work together to, to sustain a living, because you can't even think about living high class, because middle class is soon bound to be, something that we can no longer attain anymore. The middle class is going to be drowned out eventually, and that's the direction that our world is heading in. Yes, we can blame a lot of our financial woes on inflation, but also you got to hold yourself accountable as well in terms of budgeting your money. Really ask yourself, do I really need to buy designer? Do I really need to buy a Gucci bag? Do I really need to buy a new cell phone? My cell phone works just fine, it's operating, it's operating right. It can make calls, it has internet, it has everything that is required to have when it comes to a cell phone. Just think about what you really need and what you don't need, and just pay your shit on time and avoid debt as much as possible. I would not get too many credit cards. I learned that the hard way from my mom. I saw the mistakes that she was making when it came to having all these credit cards from different stores and whatnot, and it got her into a lot of debt. So I just looked at her situation and said, yeah, I'm not going to get myself into that situation. That's going to be misery right there. especially if you're in college and you have to pay off the tuition. I mean, that's why I made an effort to go to college at first, but I just said to myself, I don't think it's worth it. I think if I'm able to just, learn a trade online and commit myself to it and, learn a high income skill, I don't think I would, necessarily need college, because the whole purpose of going to college, I mean, there's actually multiple purposes why people go to college. One is to socialize and meet new people. The other, I'm assuming, is to major in something, a career, get yourself into a high income field, that can pretty much set you off, get yourself a degree, but that sounds good and all, but I would rather risk missing out on the college experience than to drown myself after 4 years in college tuition debt. I'm not going to be drowned in that shit. No thank you. You know what I'm saying? But that's all I got to say on this topic, man. Just take accountability for your spending habits. We all have them. We all have like poor spending habits. But we have to do better in terms of just budgeting our money and just not going crazy on, keeping up with the Joneses and keeping up with the trends. And, you got to think rationally about, what you're really spending your funds on at the end of the day. Because a month will go by and you'll look at what you brought and be like, yeah, I didn't really need to buy that. It wasn't really that special. It was just the spur of a moment. It was just out of emotion. I really want to buy that and I just got it, But months will go by, you'll be like, yeah, I don't really need it.